What's going on YouTube? WestHobbiesRC. So today we are back with the GAUI NX7. So in this video we are going to get this thing all wired up, FBL setup, muffler on, blades on, and get this thing ready for flight. So the first thing we need to do is pull the canopy, remove our canopy mounts, because we were going to use the magnetic mounts, but the problem is they push the back of the canopy too far apart. Doesn't look good. Won't work, so we just decided to go with the stock mounts. So we got to pull the canopy, get those Loctited, and then start with wiring. So first thing we're going to do is go ahead, I pulled the actual canopy mounts apart and Loctite. Go ahead and Loctite your screw. We want to run it about halfway, so about right there is where we want it. We also need to pull this screw right here out and shorten it. It is a little too long, so it was hitting the boom, so I got to pull that back out, cut it down a little bit, put it back, and then now we're going to put a dab of Loctite onto here. Take our actual canopy post itself, go ahead, screw it all the way on, tighten it all the way up, do the same for the front mounts and the same for the other side. So now for electronics, and where are we going to place everything? Before we start wiring anything, we need to figure out placement. So we have our Icon 2 HD, we have our onboard glow, we have our SRXL2 and DSMX satellite. So here's my idea and my vision, okay? I'm gonna mount the Icon here. We're gonna use this plate here for the actual 2S LiPo. So LiPo will sit here just like this. We could also mount it here if we need to. So we have an option here or here. So we'll figure that out when we get to that stage, maybe front depending on CG. Now we have our Icon 2 HD Bluetooth. My idea is to mount it here. Now I already test fit the canopy and the canopy does clear. So my idea is to mount it about here somewhere. And then I want to cut a nice oval slot out of this right here. And that'll be our wire up feed. So that way we can run our wires through the frame, through our bearing block, the little notches we have, come through, up into the Icon. It'll look very clean, my idea. Now we have our onboard glow driver. We need to figure out where to mount this. Our SRXL2, I'm thinking is gonna go right here, antennas down, and our DSMX satellite will either go inside the frame here or right here in this little hole. There is a flat plate. Now they say in the manual that this is where you can put your gyro or your receiver. The only problem with that is the Icon does fit up and under here, so we can mount it like this, we can mount it like this, but then that's getting all the wires and everything that we have right here has to run down, so I don't like that. So DSMX satellite will probably go here with antenna back or maybe antenna out the side. Figure that part out, but that's the general layout. So let's go ahead, let's get the Icon mounted up here. Let's figure out where we are going to cut our slot, get that done, and then start running our wires in some heat shrink and figuring out all the routing from the 3 cyclic servos forward. Our tail and throttle servo are real nice and direct. We got the SRXL2 mounted. We got the DSMX satellite mounted. We ran the antenna out the front. So now we got a piece of painter's tape about where the Icon is going to sit. So now what I'm going to do is take a black magic marker and I'm basically going to make a oval shape here. And then that way I can cut it out, peel the tape off nice and clean. And then we'll permanently mount the Icon into place. We'll pull this cover off so we can cut it and then start running all the wires up. And we're going to either do something like a grommet here or some kind of rubber grommet to allow the wires not to shave. So let's go ahead, measure this, figure this out, get that cut out, and start running the wires. So I went ahead and cut a slot. Now I still need to go back in, sand it, clean it up a little bit, but that's the rough cut. So now what we can do is take our throttle servo, run it up right into channel 1. Take our rudder servo, run it up right into servo 4. Our governor servo or sensor is going to come out of the governor. We're going to cover this wire in heat shrink. Now the throttle and rudder servo, we're not going to cover those wires because they're going to be completely hidden. So the governor servo sensor wire will come up, cover that part in heat shrink, come through here, right up into the governor port. Nice direct short run. And then we'll go ahead and cover these wires. They are going to run underneath this bearing block, and we could get them next to this starter shaft here, right along this frame rail side. So that way they clear the shaft and we don't have to worry about none of that. We'll run all 3 servo leads, and then we'll do the same with the SRXL wire, run it forward. So we'll probably do 2 wires on this side, 2 wires on this side, run our satellite wire. And then I'm thinking for the onboard glow driver, we are going to mount that guy probably right here. So it's a nice, easy run. We can run the wire through this. Really nice having this little section here because we can run all our wires. And I really don't want to run anything on the outside of the frame because I just don't like the look of running wires on the outside. So, you know, we want to get everything on the inside. So let's go ahead, start running these wires up. We'll start with throttle and rudder, then governor, and then just work our way back. We got the heat shrink over our wires. The 3 cyclic servos, we do not have to shorten, which is very nice because they are the proper length to run all the way up and give us a nice little up and in. We already cut down and put the heat shrink on the governor sensor. We still have to shrink it all down. We have to crimp on all our new lines, but our throttle rudder servo are shortened. So now we are going to heat shrink all this, run them forward. I need to look at the icon and see the software, see what servo is what for as far as 1, 2, and 3, because I know it is different than SAB. So we're gonna heat shrink all this, run it forward along the frame rail sides, and then we are going to make up our line from the SRXL2, which of course will be a 3 servo to getting rid of the gray wire to this pin. So we'll make up a new line, go ahead, run that through, make up the satellite, and then also I went ahead and mounted the onboard glow right here. So the battery is going to go here, icon here, battery, onboard glow. Run the wires right through that little hole, and that'll go right to the glow plug. Right, got the throttle, rudder, and governor sensor shortened so you guys can kind of get an idea of my thought on the wiring. Still have to heat shrink and heat shrink all these down. So these will run together up and through into the icon real nice and neat, tuck on the side of the frame so they're out of the way of the starter shaft. Try to keep all the wires in the frame, nothing on the outside. And then now we're going to make a wire to go from our SRXL2 all the way up. We're going to probably tuck it to the left side into channel 3 of the icon, and then we have to make another lead to go from channel 2 to the actual onboard glow to turn it off and on. So for the SRXL2, I went ahead and soldered the end. I removed the gray wire, soldered it to a piece of 22 gauge servo wire. So now this is the proper length that's going to run from the back of the helicopter to channel 3 on the icon. So now I'll strip this back, crimp a new end on here, cover this wire in heat shrink. And then again, the SRXL2 goes from your 4 wire to 3. And the reasoning of running an SRXL2 on a nitro helicopter is for pack voltage for receiver pack, engine RPM, and you can also add temperature if you want to, but engine RPM or rotor RPM and the flight pack voltage is what I'm concerned about. Also, you get forward programming basically through the icon to your transmitter with the SRXL2. So I recommend running them on all helicopters. Heat all shrunk down, and we got our wires ran through the frame here. So we got our elevator servo running with our pitch or aileron servo. I'm not exactly sure which one's aileron, which one's pitch yet. And then we got our SRXL2 wires ran through, and it's going on to the left side of the frame with our opposite servo. So we have 2 leads here and we have 2 leads here. Now I still have to crimp the end onto the SRXL2 one. That goes to channel 3. So now I'm going to pull this tray back out, and we have our power wires just here so we can kind of get an idea of where the wires are going. So now I need to figure out which servo goes to which port, figure that out, get the wires ran up and through, plugged in, crimp a new end on to our SRXL2, and then we can move on with the satellite wire and figuring out where or what size XT60 and how much we need to cut off of the power. Also got our switch on down here. So now on and off is right here, nice and out of the way. And then we got the wires just ran through for the X-Glow. We got the lead made up for the X-Glow to turn it off and on by the radio. So now we are going to cut the alligator clip side, so it'll clip right here, and we'll crimp a new end on it, plugs right here, and then the ground wire we will run up and under and bolt it to the bottom case somewhere on the end. We got our servo end crimped back on, for the glow plug. So the glow plug's hooked up and the ground wire is tightened on the other side. So now the onboard glow is fully wired and ready. We also got the actual SRXL2 crimped, so that is done. So now it is time to reheat all these wires, and we're going to push them flat against the frame on both sides, so that way they are out of the starter shaft and out of the way. Everything is plugged in. Now, servo layout. This is the left side nose of the helicopter. 1, 2, and 3. So that's the way it goes out. 1, 2, and 3. So that's the way I wired it into the icon. So the only thing else left to make up is solder XT60 for the battery. So we're going to go ahead and get the battery mounted so we can figure out the best way to route the leads going out the bottom or the top. And the satellite, throw the muffler on this thing and it will be ready for setup. Oh, we also got to throw the blades on too. We can't forget about that. Pack Velcroed into place where we want it. It's balancing out perfectly. So now we just got to change this to an XT60, solder up XT60, and then we are done with all of the wires. We went ahead and got our wires zip tied up to the side of the frame here, so that way no wires are interfering with anything, and our starter shaft is clear to start. We still have to put our fabric paint on the connectors, but I'm going to wait till after I power it all up to make sure that it is perfect. So now our next thing is going to be mounting the ProTune 105 muffler. So that's just simple. I put the little block off in because we are pumped engine, no muffler pressure. So that's guys going to go right there just like that. And then we still need to pull this nipple out here and put a screw in there, seal that off. So let's go ahead and get the screws out. Let's get this muffler bolted up and see how good it looks. Pipe is mounted. Gave it a quick little polish up with some mothers. We got the exhaust deflector on, pointed down, and that's where I like to put it on my nitros, where it kind of blows out around here. Some people put it out this way. That's up to your user preference. So now let's solder up our XT60, get our fabric paint put on, and let's see what this thing is looked like all finished up. It is looking so good. And the GAUI is done. We got our XT60 soldered. We got everything wired. We got our battery strapped into place. We got our muffler secured. We got our blades on and tensioned. We got our tail blades on. Everything is mechanically sound. So now all that's left is FBL setup. We got all of our wires shortened, onboard glow hooked up. This thing came out awesome. I am so glad for this model to be finished. Definitely a very time sensitive and intense build. It has a lot of hours into this build, a lot of weeks into building, but it looks incredible. Carbon, everything looks good. GAUI did a great job especially for its time frame. I'm happy with it. Got our SRXL2. The only thing I got left to finish up, which I'm going to do off camera, is I got to 3D print a new antenna holder, like the ones we use on the SAB. Make it smaller so that way it can hold the antennas down and out like this. We got our satellite on the bottom. Got all our wires ran out of the way. We zip tied the wires to the side frame here, so that way they clear the starter shaft. We do need to do one thing. Our fabric paint. And we need to come across our pins and put a nice bead all the way down. And now the GAUI NX7 is done. This is awesome stuff. You guys aren't using it yet, go ahead and get it. Get it on Amazon. That's what it is right there. GAUI NX7 is completely finished up. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching this build series. I know it's been 5 parts. Trust me, it's taken me longer than the videos you guys are watching. Probably hours and hours and hours into each video that you see. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Jason, again, I know it's been a timely build, but I hope you're happy with this thing. It came out awesome. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Give it a like, subscribe, take care, and have a great day.